All ready to go? I want to call the meeting to the beginning, guys. Thank everyone for joining. We know why we're here. Call to order. I'm going to have the city attorney announce the case, and then we'll get going if that's okay with everyone else.
Great. Good evening, everybody. We're here before the Board of Zoning Appeals to deal with case 2024-227, which is the request for a special exception. The clerk's going to read the contents of the case file into the record.
The case file contains the original application. It contains the original receipt for payment of $600. It contains a letter to the applicant, copies of the letters to the contiguous property owners, a copy of the legal notice that was sent to the Carroll County Times, the original notice from the Carroll County Times, and a posting of the property. Oh, and also the certified receipts from the letters that were sent to the contiguous property owners.
Great. The case I mentioned is a special exception tonight, and so we'll go over after the testimony, and I'm sure we'll have all of the information provided to talk about what the basis of that is, and then I'll give you the legal standard when we're ready for our discussion. So if no questions, we'll move on. I know that the applicant is represented by Ms. Miller tonight, and so she's very familiar about what has to happen. So, Mr. Chairman, if we're okay, we'll just let her run with it.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Good evening. Kelly Schaefer Miller, 73 East Main Street, Westminster, Maryland, 21157. I'm here this evening on behalf of Avapco. I have two representatives here with me this evening who will both testify. Mr. Chad Reindaler, who is a representative of Avapco, and Mr. Jim Mathias here from Development Design Consultants Incorporation. So as Mr. Gallo and Ms. Coleman introduced the file, we are here tonight requesting special exception approval for Avapco to locate a parking lot on actually 3 parcels of property that are in the midst of being consolidated to accommodate the existing Avapco headquarters facility. So as some of you may or may not be familiar with, Avapco is going through a site plan process to do an office expansion at its existing headquarters. As part of that expansion project, part of its existing parking will be utilized for the office expansion. So this adjacent parking lot is necessary both to accommodate some of that lost parking from that and also accommodate the office growth that Avapco is undergoing as part of that expansion project. So if you're familiar with these properties, I should say these, because currently they appear like 3 properties. They were residentially developed. They are all industrially zoned, and they are also now all owned by Avapco. So Avapco has introduced this concept at Planning Commission prior to coming here before you this evening. So some of the elements of this have been reviewed by certain agencies already as part of the review process. If an approval is granted here tonight, this project will still have to go through a site plan review and approval by this town's planning commission as well. So with that, I will begin my case, and I would call Mr. Chad Reindaler first. Is it okay if he just talks right here with me?
Right there.
Okay.
And all witnesses that are testifying, you're going to realize your testimony is under oath. We're not going to individually swear you in, but you'll just realize that.
Sorry, I'm just gonna grab these. And I put everything together in any exhibits all in one packet, just so that everybody has them at once. I can enter them together separately. And the first is just a copy of Schultz's. So that's not even an exhibit.
Dad's favorite, that's right.
Thank you so much for giving us each one.
At the end of the case, just remember to enter them into evidence, and we'll take care of that.
Okay. Thank you. You're welcome. I'm going to set an extra here in case anyone wants to look at it. Chad, can you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Chad Reindaler, 4 Ivy Circle, Hanover, Pennsylvania.
Okay. And are you here tonight as a representative of Avapco?
Yes,
Can you tell us what your position at Avapco is?
Senior Engineering Manager.
Okay. And can you explain what Avapco is and does, just briefly?
VAPCO is a manufacturer of cooling and heating equipment through evaporative processes. Hence the name EVAPCO.
Okay. And is it accurate that Avapco currently locates and operates its global headquarters in Taneytown?
Yes,
Okay, and that is located on Allendale Lane, correct?
yes,
Okay, I have you turned right now to applicant's exhibit 1, which is a Google aerial that in red lettering shows the existing Avapco headquarters and the proposed parking area. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Okay. So is it accurate that the existing headquarter building is directly across Allendale Lane from the headquarter building?
yes,
And you heard my opening statement here tonight. Was that an accurate summary of kind of the status of the office expansion related to Evapco?
correct.
Okay. And is it fair to say that as a result of that expansion, Evapco needs to locate some of its parking at this adjoining property?
Yeah, this expansion will take up approximately 100 spaces of current employee parking. We look to get those back.
Okay. And is it correct that Evapco owns the subject property here this evening?
Yes.
Approximately, if you are aware, approximately when did Evapco purchase those 3 properties?
First quarter of 2023.
Okay. And in terms of the use of this requested parking lot, who is going to use this parking lot?
This is strictly employee parking.
Okay. So it will be limited to employees of Evapco. This is not a parking garage where the public can park and pay to park.
No,
Okay. And will this parking area also accommodate some of the required parking spaces related to the office expansion?
yes.
Okay. Can you just describe some of the parking needs for the office? Is it, walk me through when is the office in use? Because I assume that's also when the parking lot will be in use.
Correct. Typical business hours, Monday through Friday. First shift, 8 a.m. to 3:30, 7 a.m. to 3:30, and then second shift, 3:30 to 11. So that will be in use during the first and second shifts.
Okay. And will there be any employees stationed on the?
No.
Okay. Or is there any proposed building on the parking site?
No,
Okay. There is shown on the plans, there is like a vestibule area, so one could seek shelter in rain, correct?
Correct.
Okay, but there's no structure that requires any water or other utilities to it?
no.
Okay. Those are my only questions of Mr. Reindaler. Mr. Mathias is going to testify next related to a lot of the property-specific characteristics.
You guys have any questions for Mr. Reindaler while he's up?
At this moment. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I would next call Mr. Jim Mathias.
Good evening.
Can you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, James L. Mathias, Development Design Consultants, Inc., 192 East Main Street, Westminster, Maryland.
Now, I believe Jim has testified in front of this board and the Planning Commission several times. I would ask that he be qualified as an expert in the area of land planning and site design. I'm happy to walk him through the qualifying questions or for him to answer anyone's questions if they haven't.
So what we mean by an expert is that he can give his opinion even if he hasn't had firsthand knowledge. He has been a presenter in years of press and been an expert before. To do that, you all have to agree.
Agreed.
Yeah. He's accepted as an expert.
Thank you. Mr. Mathias, have you been present for the entirety of this hearing tonight?
I have.
And were you asked to prepare the drawing that accompanied this application here this evening?
Yes.
So are you familiar with the Evapco existing headquarters as well as this property?
I am.
And in fact, have you been responsible for taking that office expansion through the approval process as well?
Yes.
Okay. Is it accurate that that the parking lot has received concept approval through Planning Commission prior to appearing here tonight?
Yes.
Okay, which then allows this to continue through the remainder of the Planning Commission process
Yes.
if an approval is granted here tonight, correct?
Yes.
Okay. As part of that process, have some reviewing agencies had the opportunity to review the plans and offer some comments?
They have.
And in fact, one of those comments came from the County Planning Department indicating that the proposed parking lot is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'm out of order because I've marked that as applicant's exhibit 3. So we'll flip back to 2 in just a second here. Jim, is that what has been marked as applicant's exhibit 3?
Yes.
With the relevant portion highlighted there on the first page?
Yes.
Okay. In preparing the drawing that accompanied the application here tonight, did you have an opportunity to look at the zoning of the property, the surrounding property, the natural features, and the topography?
I did.
Okay. And can you tell us what the zoning of the subject property is?
It's restricted industrial.
Okay, so I'm looking at applicant's exhibit 2, which is a copy of the town's zoning map. And can you also just generally describe the surrounding zoning of these properties?
Everything on the, I'll say, the south side of 194 is, and immediately adjacent to, is zoned restricted industrial. Immediately opposite on the other side of 194, it's zoned general business.
And can you tell us the acreage of the property, the subject properties here this evening?
1.4 acres?
Okay, is that comprehensive, the three parcels?
Yes,
Okay,
combined.
Okay, like 3 lots, I actually think there. And is it your understanding that any approval from Planning Commission of a site plan for this would require consolidation of those 3?
Yes,
Okay. And is it accurate that we're here tonight requesting special exception approval for a parking lot on this site?
yes.
Can you explain how this site will be accessed?
Yes, there will be an access point several hundred feet from the intersection of 194 and Allendale Lane. Vehicles will move south along Allendale and then turn left into the parking lot.
And we're happy to pull out a plan if it's helpful at any point for Jim to be able to point to specific elements, so please just pipe up if that would be helpful. Jim, is it accurate that Allendale is a town-owned and maintained road?
Yes,
Okay, and that is fed from 194/FSK Highway, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and FSK Highway is a state-owned and maintained road, is
it
that
is.
accurate?
Yes.
Do you believe, you heard Mr. Reindoller's description of the office traffic that's going to be associated with this parking lot. Is it your opinion that both of those, both the state highway and the town road are both capable of accommodating that traffic?
That location, yes.
Okay. And can you speak to the proposed crosswalk for the employees to maneuver from the parking lot to the headquarter facility?
Yes, again, in approximately that same location where we have the entrance point into the parking lot for vehicles, there will be a crosswalk at Allendale Lane, across Allendale Lane. We're going to be proposing, you may have seen them recently in Westminster, they've installed some push-button, solar-operated, wirelessly connected pedestrian controls. It basically, you push a button, lights start flashing, and it identifies that a pedestrian to vehicles will be crossing at that time.
So it's essentially just a visual cue that
Yeah.
pedestrians can cross at that point.
Correct. That doesn't stop traffic, it's just a visual cue.
That will accompany striping on the ground as well,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Okay, and is the location of the crossing similar to where the vestibule that I kind of
Yes.
asked Chad about is going to be located as
Yes,
well?
yes.
Okay, and was that location for the crossing and the access point both picked intentionally to be the safest point, if you will, on the site?
Yes, it was, and actually, there was some feedback from the planning commission that they preferred that crossing to be as far south along Allendale as possible.
Okay, and in fact, did we then locate it as far south as
Yes, we did.
possible?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Is there any signage proposed on this site?
There is going to be a monument sign at the corner, at the intersection. Basically, just, it's going to be decorative, and it's going to have a VAPCO logo on the outside of the wall with some landscaping.
Okay, so is it fair to say that it'll kind of identify that as like an entrance to the Avapco headquarters?
Yes,
That location?
yes.
Okay, and that will be in addition to any sort of directional signage related to the parking lot itself?
Correct, correct.
Okay, and will the parking lot have lighting?
It will.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, there will be, I believe it's 4 or 5 pole-mounted lights, 16 feet high. We've done a photometric plan. There will be very little spillover onto adjacent properties. In most cases, it'll be 0. I think there's in one case moving towards the Taney Corporation property where some spillover will be less than 1 candle foot in the area of like 0.4.
And you spoke to the photometric plan, that's been prepared and submitted as part of the site plan, correct?
Yes.
So that will also be an element that's reviewed by Planning Commission, is that accurate?
Correct, correct.
Okay. And can you just generally describe the required and proposed screening and landscaping to the site?
Yes, because it's an industrial zone property, there's no real screening required between any adjacent or adjoining industrial-owned properties. However, there will be screening required along the rights-of-way. That's, I think they classify that as a Class B screening. Basically, what that means is at maturity, that it's more of a hedgerow type screening with some trees intermixed, and it has to achieve a height of, I believe it's 3 feet.
Jim, in your experience, are you aware of some of the other uses that are allowed in the restricted industrial zone? And in your opinion, would you say that this requested use is more or less intense than some of the uses allowed in that zone?
I would say less in that this is sort of a supplemental parking to support the main campus of Avapco. I would say it would be less.
Okay. And are you aware of the standard for special exception cases set forth in Schultz v. Pritz?
I am.
And in your opinion, are there any adverse effects that you're aware of or heard testified to here tonight that are above and beyond those inherently associated with such a use, regardless of its location in the zone?
No.
Okay. Are you familiar with the general operation of other parking lots in Carroll County and the town?
Certainly.
Okay. And is there anything more intense that you're aware of related to this parking lot than others located elsewhere?
No.
That concludes my testimony of Mr. Mathias. I would like to ask that all of these exhibits be entered before I forget to ask you that question.
Well said.
Okay, we'll start with the exhibits. So we have exhibits 1, 2, and 3, and you all need to agree to elect them into the record. Any objection to that? No objection. Okay, they're so entered. Do you have any questions for Mr. Mathias?
Yeah, I just have one question. I just want to clarify. I know you said it. So where the proposed lot's going to be, the entrance and exit will not be on 194, correct? It will be on It'll be on Allendale Road, correct?
Only,
Okay.
yeah, only one point of egress and egress.
Okay. That was my only question. Everything was laid out perfectly, explained everything. The maps made sense to me. Thorough.
Okay. We're going to do some other testimony maybe, and then we'll let you have a summary.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Hale?
Okay, so like they, it's going to be a lot of repeating here, but it needs to be said. So this property, these 3 lots are in the restricted industrial. We did ask the engineers to consolidate those properties. Parking, of course, is allowed in all districts. In this case, the impetus for the special exception is the fact that the parking is not on the main lot property. So the planning commission did give a favorable recommendation back in January. The plans are going through the county. Slowed down a little bit here recently, but there's 108 spots for parking. Very well laid out, very nice. As Mr. Mathias said, the crosswalk was intentionally moved as far off of 194 as possible. It's one of the concerns of the planning commission. It's pretty neat, solar paneled. Those lights light up on each side. I mean, it's pretty slick. Doesn't sound cheap. Standards. It was addressed very clearly, ingress and egress being where it was. Couple more items. The parking is adequate in that it's 1 space per 2 employees for the busiest shift. So that's been explained as being adequate to us, to the planning commission previously. And that's all I have, sir.
Do you have any concerns about the plan moving forward?
Not at all.
I like it. Jim, do you have any comments, sir? Any feedback or?
Nothing to add, just here in case there are additional questions that I can help out with.
Thank you. Public comment?
Ask questions.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I watched the video of the planning commission meeting, I think, last month, and somebody asked something about water management going into the creek. I don't remember, I couldn't hear what your answer was. I think, if I remember, and please correct me, I think you said that it causes no additional, like, water issues in the area and it goes to some kind of.
We're going to be
inflow
completely
somewhere.
compliant with the state stormwater management regulations, and the town's engineer is reviewing that plan now.
Okay.
Any other questions on the board?
So if I'm looking at this map, you said the,
Yeah, Jim, do you have the map? Could you kind of point out where that'd be easier for a visual.
so I think I see the ingress egress on Allendale Lane. Here, yeah, if you don't mind. I think this is the ingress, so where people come in and out.
As far south as we
Mhm,
can
yep.
possibly get.
Where is the crosswalk
Yeah,
from here? I
That
don't,
has been advanced since this plan was
got it,
submitted.
okay.
So that crossing is going to
Okay,
be.
I had a
right-
feeling it was
It's
probably
going to be
near
right
that.
here, and the shelter that was mentioned earlier is going to be in that general area right there.
Okay.
Did everyone see that?
And you said lighting spillover is basically negligible and it's gonna hit the Tawny Corp over
About-
here a little
about-
bit?
About a half a candle foot at that property.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Keep on rolling. What else you got?
I think those were my main questions. Yeah, that's all residential. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you.
We'll open up now for public comment. No public comment. Moving on.
We'll let her come back for a summary. if she
All right.
please.
Put up for us.
I'll make it short and sweet.
All right, thanks.
We appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. I know you're all very familiar with the town's code and specific to the restricted industrial zone, but I will point out that a parking lot, as Mr. Hill stated, the reason we're here tonight is because this parking lot is on a different parcel of property than the headquarters. Had it been on the same headquarters, we would not need special exception approval. So if we look to the other allowed uses, even the principal permitted uses in that zoning district, some of them include manufacturing, lumber and fuel distribution, truck or motor freight terminals. This is what we're requesting tonight is incredibly low in intensity compared to other permitted uses in that zoning district. You all are familiar with the Schultz v. Pritz legal standard, which comes out of Maryland case law and even Carroll County specifically, that relates to special exceptions. And I think that all of the evidence and testimony that was put on tonight very much prove that we meet the legal standard in Schultz v. Pritz, which is that we are not creating an adverse impact above and beyond those inherently associated with any other parking lot, regardless of where it's located. Your code, the town code speaks specifically to some of the things that guide this board in its decision-making process. And I will point out that pursuant to section 20574 of your code, Exhibit 3 was entered to show the compatibility with the town's master plan, comprehensive plan, and all of the testimony put on by Mr. Matthias about the use and the characteristics of the property show that it is compatible with the existing neighborhood because this is surrounded almost entirely by industrially zoned property, at least all to the east, southwest, if you will, and commercial to the north for the most part. Speaking to the standards set forth in section 20576 of your code, a lot of testimony was put on and focused tonight on the ingress and egress to the site that's provided via state highway, then onto Allendale. This is all existing. None of this is being constructed for purposes of this site specifically. And it's already utilized by the Evapco headquarters. So it is sufficient. The pedestrian safety has been one of the primary concerns and goals in taking that into account for this use, and all of the testimony was put on tonight to that effect. There is no, unlike some other developments that this board sees, there are no utilities that are necessary. I mean, there's some electric for the lighting, but there is no water, there's no building here. So this is somewhat unique in that there's not a lot of that sort of infrastructure needed for this site. As you are aware, this will have to go through the full site plan process if approved here tonight. So we are requesting this approval here tonight for the special exception, and if we are granted this approval, we look forward to going through the remainder of the site plan process before the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. May I close the public hearing?
Close the public hearing, you good with that?
Now the deliberation by the board. Thank you all for coming. That was thorough. You answered all of our questions. All the information's here. I've reviewed everything prior to coming to here. The plan looks good, the maps look good. So from my point of view, I don't see any negatives. As you said, the utilities are very limited. It's a parking lot. And you said lights were solar, no utilities are being used. So from my point of view, I don't see any negatives here. And that concludes my portion and my thoughts on it. You guys have any thoughts? Nick, start with you.
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Can I move the motion and vote, Attorney?
I think so, because Ms. Miller covered everything. I don't need to give you
Yeah.
the standards. If you have questions about the standards, I'd be happy to ask them, but that's more of a training session thing, then we'll do it from here, so. Go ahead.
Motion to approve, I'll start. Motion to approve,
Second?
second, third, Attorney?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Opinion?
Thank you,
There
guys.
you go. Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.